I think I would go crazy if I had to produce a Van Holzen album by myself.
Yeah, I think that was a whole topic of the album, Say Goodbye to Perfection.
For self-producing bands, it just helps being around other people who make music or produce records.
What did you want to make? Which kind of emotion did you want to create? What was the thought process behind the general vibe of it? And what would you even call that genre-wise? Like, what was the intention?
To make the best alternative rock record in Germany.
And there was a lot of insecurity.
Trusting myself and trusting the process, it was not as easy as it used to be.
It's really, really hard to beat very well programmed drums these days, because you got to do it all right. And so many people just don't.
Yeah, good. I started with a producer because when I was like 15 or 16, stuff would be not as good.
That's unfortunately what a lot of people do.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
We are doing a very special episode today because it's not just my wonderful co-host and friend Manel and I doing this interview or this episode today. We have guests, and those guests are Flo from Van Holzen and Phil, aka Kidney Paradise, who produced the new Van Holzen record together. It just came out this month. It's called Solange die Erde sich dreht, and it's fantastic. I've been listening to it quite a bit these last couple of weeks. I have tons of questions about it, about the production process, about the fact that it is basically self-produced, like with external help and all of that, of course, but it is a self-produced record. And I just can't wait to dive in. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today, and welcome to the podcast, Phil and Flo. Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Hello.
And just to be complete here, the names are Florian Kiesling actually and Philipp Koch. So just so you know who I mean when I say Phil and Flo. And as always, I'm also not doing this by myself. I'm doing this with my co-host Manel from Madrid. Hello, Manel. Good to see you as always.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Happy to be
Manel.
here. And I can't wait to talk about this amazing album.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, my name is Benedikt Hein. I'm the host of this show. I'm a mixing engineer myself, and I also run this platform, the Self-Recording Band, where we help self-recording bands make better records from their jam spaces. So I'm excited to talk about this today. I want to start by saying something that I just found online when I was doing research for this. And I just found this one sentence that kept popping up. I found this to be interesting. And it was that the making of this record apparently started in 2023 under the Greek sun, is what I read everywhere. And then you went to Berlin, to like a small studio in Berlin, is what I got from that. And before you then took it to the Tool House studio, where it was produced and where the final recordings took place, I guess. So what's that about? Like, what about the Greek sun and the start of that before you moved to Berlin with the record and then to Tool House? Help me understand this process.
Yes, well, it's a little tradition of ours to like write in different places, go to different countries and just get away for a while. And this time we met a guy named Daniel, and he owns this small little house in Greece. And he invited us to go there and like stay 3 weeks, write and record some songs. So we asked Phil if he wants to come with us. Mm-hmm. And start off the process of the record. And like 2 or 3 weeks in advance, we had one call, Phil and I remember it vividly. And we talked about, maybe we're gonna write the songs and just record them, and then we're gonna finish the record in 3 weeks in Greece, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
didn't
wasn't
happen,
like
apparently.
that. Didn't happen. But
Almost.
Yeah. But it was a very, very important start, and just get away and concentrate on recording music and extend the summer.
Extend the summer. Oh yeah, that's really cool. Does it generally help you to just do like to just be in a different environment to write and maybe get new creative, I don't know, outside perspectives, and just is that helpful to you in general?
Yes, and also really focus on making music and don't have these everyday responsibilities, and just focus on taking your time off, being together in one room and having time, and also different space, different climate, different temperature helps. And yeah, get away, just be creative for a while.
Sure. Yeah, and then you took it to is that your home studio or jam space in Berlin? What they talked about? I just read like an 8 square meters studio in Berlin, whatever that means.
Yeah, that was mine. I
yours.
had it for like 1.5 years. Now I moved into a bigger space.
Good.
Nearby, but yeah, and then we were in my little 8 square meter space and Phil's bigger studio, and just kept writing. And before we got into the tool house, but it took a while, like I think 1 year.
Okay, but that was all pre-production, writing, arranging, and all of that. So, or did any of those early recordings make it onto the record?
Not really. There was one recording of Ein neues Programm, which was already really, really good. We recorded it in Greece, and we had a crazy setup in Greece. Actually, it was like a whole studio. Like the boys went by a van and took like their whole studio with them, and also with acoustic treatment and stuff. And we had a pretty great sound. So because there was this idea of recording the whole thing in Greece in like 2 or 3 weeks, and yeah, so we already had a pretty neat sound in Greece. And it was with Ein neues Programm, it was hard to get there again, or there was a fear that we don't manage to get there again. Yeah.
Okay, but you pulled it off. You re-recorded anything still, and it worked.
Yes, and it was great. Yeah,
and
it was
great.
worth it. Yeah.
It was worth it. Okay. So all of the recordings happened at Tool House then, or did you do some overdubs somewhere else, or like what was the process there like?
We did overdubs for guitars, and also like the vocal takes in Berlin in my studio afterwards. So we planned on doing bass overdubs and the bass track again, but the sound was too great and the performance also was super tight, and we just kept it. It was perfect. The Tool House takes were so good, and so it was, yeah, just the guitars and vocal takes after that.
Oh, great. Cool.
Like the goal for Tool House recordings was to have like super great sounding drum tracks, and that we managed to get all of the drum takes. But the idea was to record live with the guitar and the bass in the room, not with the amps in the room, but with all the 3 guys together in the room. So we have this like live energy of playing together, and we record the guitars and the bass too. And the bass was played so well and so energetic that we kept mostly all of it, right? And the guitar was also played very, very good, but we thought it would be great to dive deeper in there later. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So that means the bass and drum takes on the record are live takes. They played together.
Yeah.
I think there's one
most of the time.
outro on Gut Genug, where we did the bass overdub again, right? With this little riff in the end.
Oh yes. That was hard. Yeah.
And also with different sound. But we tried, I think, one day to replicate the bass sound and to get as close as possible, but it didn't work. And then we just listened to the bass takes, and they were great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Was there an amp in the room, or was it just DI'd basically was there bass bleed in the drum mics essentially?
No, there was no bleed. Tool House is really great for recording separately because they have a lot of options and routing options to different rooms. And we had the bass in like a small chamber, I would say. And they have also super nice amps there. We used a high watt 100, I guess. And I don't know.
Audio Kitchen.
Audio Kitchen combo.
Yeah.
And we splitted it, and that was the bass tone. And yeah, it was super, super simple. And we had some pedal action too, but also super simple. And the combo of those things was sounding so great that we weren't able to rebuild it in Berlin, and there was no need to. So yeah, we just kept it. Yeah.
Did you make some decisions, like some more decisions like that before recording, like limiting decisions? Because I've heard in some songs, for example, when the guitar is playing a solo, some other guitars disappear, like if it was played live. Did you make those decisions beforehand on purpose, or?
Not really beforehand. I think because we wanted like this live feeling, I think it was a natural decision to make it like that when there's just a solo guitar playing, because it's only flow on the guitar, that everything else disappears and it gets super mono and close and then back again and it spreads. And so you mostly hear like, or have the feeling of one guitar playing. Yeah.
And also I think what was a very important decision beforehand was to keep it as natural and as Van Holzen bandish as possible. Because I think with our third record, Aus der Ferne, we tried to make everything as perfect as we could. And this time we just wanted to be like more emotional in our performances and a little bit imperfect and, keep some of the rattling and, the imperfection. So that was a very important decision this time, I guess. And also like the thing with the bass takes, it just made a lot of sense to keep in like that.
Yeah, I think that was a whole topic of the album, say goodbye to perfection. So when it's like a bit rumbly and not totally tight with the bass or the guitars, that's actually what we were aiming for.
Yeah. On the bass tone again, real quick, and the general vibe of that, and what you mentioned there with those amps that you split and playing together in the room and all of that. You said you kept it relatively simple because of the, you use these amps, and maybe there was a little bit of a pedal action before the amps, but relatively simple. That was something that I noticed when I listened to the record, and that was, it is kind of, it is heavy in parts of the records. It is kind of aggressive and like fuzzy guitars and the roomy drums, and it has this like organic vibe that reminds me of some like hardcore records that I love, although it's not typically a hardcore record, but it has that kind of vibe. But the bass tone was surprisingly clean to me. When I listen to other music and that with a similar vibe, it's hard to compare it to anything, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of bands, even in the not so heavy genres, even if it's indie or whatever, use like a pretty distorted tone. I'm hearing a lot of, it used to be Sans amps. Now you hear a lot of the dark glass stuff or other, just distorted bass stuff. And I was kind of surprised how clean the bass was. There's a little bit of hair on it. It's a little dirty, but still. And I actually enjoyed it because there's these little runs and things in there that are just so clear because of that. And it was almost, I thought it was almost funny because the fact that the bass was just a bass tone that's pretty clean made it almost sound unique and exciting to me, And so I don't know. I'm just wondering about your thoughts on this and whether or not this, it was an intentional decision, but like, what was the thought process behind that? Why didn't you go for a dirtier tone? Was that even ever in the conversation?
Yes, it was.
We talked about it a lot, actually.
Yeah. Because also on our third record, we had these incredibly fuzzy and distorted bass tones, and it just suited the sound pretty well of Aus der Ferne. And I think we had enough of it, and we needed some new methods for recording bass and thinking about bass. And it was just like you get the bass so punchy and so immediate if you have this cleaner tone, and also you just separate the bass sound from the guitar sound and all that hiss and fuss and all that shit so much more, and it just creates a lot of space, I think. And then Phil he showed us one pedal he just sent it to us. It was this pedal that created a loop, and you could blend in the pedals in the loop. So we are like super flexible with blending in like a distortion pedal to our bass sound, but also keep the punch and the punchy low end in place. And I think this pedal really made the sound.
Yeah, it's an amazing pedal. It's from Fairfield Circuitry, I guess. And it's basically just a dry wet knob, like an external dry wet knob for any effect. And it's super cool because we had this really great sounding high watt 100. And what we would do before any song is I had Jonas playing the bass, like just what he's playing in that song. And then I adjusted the high watt and try to make a really like steady, clean tone, just a bit crunchy. And when like there was this foundation, this super steady foundation, I dialed in the Fairfield Circuitry, and we had the Pictronics distortion running through it, going in the loop of the Fairfield Circuitry. And and it's pretty fun because you have this super nice, clean bass tone, and which is already feels like super compressed, and then you dial in like just how you like it, like some distortion, and that's fun, and that's the bass sound for the record. Yeah.
Ah, great! I loved it, and it's funny to me that a pretty clean, precise, kind of clear bass tone is actually surprising on a record like that, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. It was for us too, because we thought, like, as I said in the past, make it noisy, make it distorted, go hard on that one. But it has just so much more impact when it's clean.
Yeah.
And this oomph and this round thing, like we always said, like do it like a frame, and it just frames the mix perfectly.
Oh yeah, it really does. That's actually a perfect segue to the next thing I wanted to mention, and this is can you explain to us the general kind of vision for the record that you had in mind, and what you wanted to express, what you wanted it to sound like, maybe some of those conversations before going into the record making process, because it seems to be a chain of a lot of like decisions that totally make sense together, as it usually is with making records. But when I listen to this, you have the roomy drums with a lot of low end also in the room mics. It's not really cleaned up. It's like really wide and big on every kick drum hit. The overall mix is pretty dark. It's like the top end, it's there, of course, there are cymbals and all that, but it's a relatively dark mix, and it's a lot of low end, and it's this big bloom in the room mics, and it's a certain vibe that just makes sense overall. And I wondered, what did you want to make? Which kind of emotion did you want to create? What was the thought process behind the general vibe of it? And what would you even call that genre-wise? Like, what was the intention?
To make the best alternative rock record in Germany. That was
Thank
the
you.
intention.
On to the next question.
That's it. No, we had this conversation early on because Phil, he produced all of our records since 2015. And
oh, really? I didn't even know that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm.
So he's a big part of our sound. And
you also co-produced these with him, the first couple?
The first one.
That was the first one.
Yeah, I think so. Like on Aus der Ferne, I did my part on it, but this one was like where we really did it together. But Phil, he's a big part of our sound. And so before
sorry to interrupt, but when you say produce, do you mean like producer in the classic like sense of the word, or more like engineering? But we're talking like really production, like working on the songs, the pre-production, and the right?
Yeah, and also writing songs and composing.
So not just engineering, we're talking production. Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm.
Big part of Van Holzen. And before we went into the fourth record, we sat down and talked, and we were like, okay, should we do one more together? Like, does it get boring, or what's the intention of the new record? And then we just felt like we're on the same page. And the thing about us is we always want to evolve and change and don't like do the same thing twice. And same for Phil. And so we decided to do it together this time, and our goal was to make it sound as much Van Holzen as it can be, so like very authentic and true to our band sound, true to our also live sound. The songs on this record are very close to us and are very, very personal, and we wanted to keep the sound personal too, and don't hide behind big production moves. And of course there are like these little ear candy stuff, and we always love to do that, but keep it simple, strip down, and try to sound as much as we do as possible. And
I want to I want to talk about something else, because like I feel like maybe our listeners, some of them are learning how to record and produce themselves and all that, and they find throughout this process they find a lot of problems within their recordings and stuff. So I wanted to ask you guys about difficult songs or difficult moments during this recording process. Like, did you have any concrete moment where you had doubts, and how did you overcome that moment?
Did we? I think.
Yeah, I think
there's one.
There were some
one song,
or maybe
one
not.
song in mind. Yes.
I don't know where to begin. Like, I can talk about more of a technical problem we had, or I can talk about more of a psychological problem we had.
Both are interesting, and like I see like three parts of this that are all relevant to our audience. One is the technical part, the other one is the, like you said, psychological part as well, and in hurdles, or sometimes you're just blocked or have other problems, and then the third part would still be the overall aesthetic and the emotion of the record and the vibe and all that. That's just so important to me, because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. It just what comes out of the speakers and how you react to that. And I love talking about the technical stuff, but it's just a means to an end. And at the end, I'm very interested in the vibe and the intention, the art behind it, basically. So whatever on these three things, whatever you can share in terms of challenges and problems would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Then I can start at the beginning of our songwriting. If it gets too deep, Flo, you can interrupt me, or you can say something. Like we said, we started in Greece with the first songwriting process, and at that time I was living in Lisbon for like half a year, and I traveled to Greece, and I think it was a time like none of us wasn't really at their highest level, I would say, not creatively but like personal. And but we made a setup and we just started. And I think for all of us, this first 2 weeks weren't easy. It wasn't an easy start this time. And we had pretty easy starts, other albums where we just met and wrote like 8 songs in 2 days, kind of stuff. So it was a challenge this time, and a bit of a struggle. And there were a lot of talks about where should it go, and what does the band want this time from the record? What should be different? What should be new? And there was a lot of insecurity, and I think that's pretty normal at the beginning of a record and the beginning of a like new era for a band. But it was super interesting for me because I know the guys since like almost 10 years now. And for me, I noticed that like, okay, they're growing up now. They're like in the phase where they're like really growing up, like 23, 24, 25. And I think that's the phase where a lot of change is happening, like a lot of thoughts come to mind you didn't have before, and life's starting to get serious. And that was the vibe, and I wouldn't call it a problem, but it was a challenge for all of us.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially at the time, I think it was very hard for me to write lyrics in Greece and get going, because we came to Greece with the craziest 2 years of our lives, I guess, because our manager, he died in 2022, then the father of our drummer died 2023 in the summer, and then get back together and then, okay, let's do this record and like find a new way of expressing yourself and Van Holzen 2.0. So yeah, it was a lot, but was I think especially in this phase it was good to have Phil and a person who we trust so much and made also like 3 records before together. So it was important, these 3 weeks. And then afterwards the process in Berlin and before we got into the Tool House, that was pretty chill, right? It was much more chill than I expected, at least.
Yeah, most of it, yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah. So we had this big challenge right at the start.
Yeah. It was the biggest challenge of the record, I guess, right at the start, yeah.
For sure. It sounds like it. And yeah, what did you do to overcome it? Did you just force it and push through? Did you find a specific way to deal with all of that? Or like what happened?
We talked a lot,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of talking and trying to like find a way, a creative way, and just figure out where to head. And like what I tend to do when there's like kind of an insecurity in the room, or like everyone's just like a little bit scared of the next step, like I'm going Spotify and just going totally wild on records and just like keep listening to super different styles of music and find something that maybe inspires. And yeah, I think that's how we started. We tried a lot of different stuff at the beginning, and I think that's the reason why Ein neues Programm was one of the first songs we wrote there. I think that's the most crazy track on the record, right? And there was even another track, the first one, and I really still dig it. It's a how is it called again, Flo?
Keine Lust.
Keine Lust. It's a great song. Yeah. Shame it didn't make it on the album. And it's totally wild. It's so wild. So we just went out there and tried to push the boundaries and make something different and more of a band live feel and something wild and more expressive and outgoing.
Yeah. And for me, it was all about trust, not only trusting myself, but also the people in the room and the process. Because for me, it gets easier after having these 4 or 5 songs that I'm like, okay, that's the direction I want to go in. That's nice. I'm super flashed, but it took a while for me to have these 3 or 4 songs where I'm like, okay, nice. So we had to write a lot of different ideas and different styles this time, but it was just a little bit more volume and more work to get where we wanted to go. And I think this trusting myself and trusting the process was not as easy as it used to be on this record.
Yeah. Was that kind of challenging start to it all? Was that also, did that impact the sound and vibe of it at all? Or was the like, how far in the process were you already, like, do you think that had an impact on what the record became to be? Like, was it a little darker because of that, or did it have a different, maybe you wrote different lyrics because of those challenges in the beginning?
Yes, I think so, because in this time in Greece, my need for easiness and well-being very much increased. So I just wanted to feel lighter and be cool with my emotions and go through it and write personal songs in a way I've never done before. And when I got back to Berlin, I really sat down and wrote down what this album should sound like and should be like, the songs and the vibe of it. And also in this time, we decided to make it about our past few years and about all and everything that happened to us. And so that was a very important decisions, I guess, for the album. And then later on, like with the aesthetics and the sound of the album, I think that happened like in Tool House maybe, or beforehand we just talked about it, what the feel should be like and what the songs are, and then we just listened to the room in Tool House and quick decisions, and then we got it. But I think there was a lot of thinking and planning beforehand going on in everyone's head.
This is an important point. This is one discussion we keep having with the members in our coaching program and people on our listening to this platform, like all the artists we work with. There seems to be these two camps where, where some people, and also like when I think about all the artists that I'm mixing for, it's kind of the same thing. There are some people who really like to plan a record, like you just said. They come in with and they tell me, like in the beginning, that they'll be like, they'll tell their producer, we want to make this type of record. We have this kind of vibe in mind. We want to express this or that, and it should do this and that. And they have the full plan for that. And then either they self-produce or they get someone else involved to make that happen. And then there's this other camp of people where they just seem to like to just let it happen on the spot and more spontaneously in the room and don't plan as much. And they know they want to make a record, but that's pretty much it. Like, and they see what comes out of the process. And sometimes this leads to nothing. And sometimes it leads to surprisingly cool things. But there seems to be, a lot of people who just don't really like the idea of planning this piece of art. And I'm more of a planner. I totally get that. But I wonder what your process was like. You said there was a lot of planning, but did you also leave room for things to just happen in the studio? Or did you know exactly what you're going to do going in? There was all this pre-pro phase and all that. I get that. But how much room for spontaneous things and little happy accidents did you leave when you entered the Tool House studio?
We left a lot of room, I'd say. And I think that was also the whole idea of the record. We talked about that a lot too, that we should just trust the process and go with the vibe. And so there was planning, but like very basic planning, I'd say. Also when it came to guitar tones later on, we just like threw on the next track, and then we dialed a bit with the effects, and like after 5 minutes we were like, okay, let's go. So there was a phase where it became really confident. Like after we left Tool House, it was a totally different vibe for me to produce the record or to finish it. Yeah.
And also you have to see, like, we have all this like 10 years of experience together with Phil and as a band. Yeah. So at some point you have to be like, okay, I have my guitar sound. I know where I want to go in my head. And then it just takes like five minutes at best. And you have your sound. So there's a lot of experience and thinking about it beforehand, but the actual doing and adjusting and doing technical side of stuff, it was very quick and easy for us this time. And also no technical issues at Tool House. I think there was maybe one preamp that was a little shaky, or we had to replace. Yeah. But we had no interruption of flow, so we just kept recording. So we were blessed this time.
Yes.
That's the most important part. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, that you know what you want going in and then don't take long. That requires experience, of course. You got to know your tools. You got to know your taste and the things you've developed over the last couple of years, of course, for that to be possible. So that's cool, though, because I think, like we said before, the technical stuff is not really the most important thing. It's about the songs. It's about the vibe. And you could have tried 5 more amps or whatever, but at the end of the day, this wouldn't make or break the record. It's like as long as you have the vibe you're going for, and as long as you play and you have the songs and you play them accordingly, that's what matters. How long did you spend at Tool House? How long did it take you to record the tracks there?
10 days.
10 days, right?
10 days.
Yeah.
10 days.
Yeah,
and then guitar and vocals afterwards in your studio.
Yeah.
And that also piece by piece, right? It was over a longer period of time.
Yes. We took our time with.
So you
vocals.
broke down the drum kit and set it up again?
No. The vocals and guitar was over.
Vocals and guitars.
Yeah, in Berlin. But Tool House, 10 days, and I think like 14 songs, or 15
for drums and bass.
for drums and bass.
I think 15.
15, right?
Yeah.
And I think the first 3 or 4 days we just spent with the setup because we weren't sure about the snare. We really wanted to hit the snare right, and we had some issues with finding the right attack. That's very specific now, but
I love it.
It was a lot of searching. But then we found something really nice. I don't know actually which snare it was at the end. Was it a Ludwig?
It was like a rebuild Supraphonic from LB Custom. It's like a Swiss company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think we spent 7 days just recording and really like waiting for the right vibe of the take, because the guys really like give everything for a take, and especially it was very drum focused in Tool House. Daniel is such a great drummer. He hits it so perfectly, but sometimes he's not. He plays perfect in our ears, and he's like, no, maybe just one more take, and I'm like, I think we already have it, and so. He could just play first takes because he's so good. He's one of the best rock drummers I know.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, the feel is incredible on this record. And there are some, it's not the most technical record, but there are some tricky parts in there. Like some grooves are, maybe it's hard to spot for some people, but I know that some parts are hard to play. Like, and like in terms of where exactly the snare is, and if it's slightly behind, it's like the feel of it. It's like that is really hard to do that way, and it just feels perfect. I agree. Yeah, the snare also stands out because it is dark, and you're right. It's interesting you talk about the attack because it is dark, but still cuts through. There's still a stick attack, and there's a ring to it, but not an annoying type of ring. And I don't like it if a snare is like when a snare is too. Unless it's like really intentional that matches the vibe. But if it's like too dead and just too quiet, I don't really like that because it just makes it lifeless and quiet in a way. And on that record, it feels kind of dry and dead at first. But when you listen closely, especially in parts where there's a little more space for it, you can actually hear that it has a pretty long body and ring to it, which I love. It's the perfect balance and for that record. And so that was, so very, very well done. And it required great drumming too, of course.
And it took us a while. So
that's good to hear.
First get the thank you. That's very good to hear actually. Yeah. Because
that's one of the things that stood out to me. Because the snare is, I don't know, but I'm a nerd about this, and drums are the thing I love most about making records. And the snare is after the vocal, or together with the vocal, kind of is the voice of a song to me. It's the most important element in the song. Like the first thing I pay attention to is the snare in most cases, and right after the vocal usually. So it just matters. It changes the feel of the entire thing. Yeah.
And that's the same for us. We're so drum focused. Also, Phil, you're super drum focused, right?
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time with the attack, but then also before every song, getting the snare into the right key of the song. And so Daniel, he was tuning snares like a maniac in these seven days.
Yeah.
Every key.
Still sorry for him.
Still sorry.
Yeah. That's
But
so
yeah,
important to
it's-
hear, though, and I love
that's
that you bring it
important.
up and that you share that. I love that because that is one of those things that gets so lost when people try to self-record, and which is one of the challenges that we see a lot here. That people don't realize how long it can take to just do a proper drum setup, and to just, if you like really want to go into the details and do it right. And it's like it's one of the most complex, like the most complex rock instrument to capture, so many variables, and it's just the setup part of it. So people just don't realize how much effort goes into that. And then you got to play it right. You got to be prepared and all those things. And, as much as I love live drums, of course, it's really, really hard to beat very well programmed drums these days, because you got to do it all right. And so many people just don't. And I love to hear that and how much went into that. And then hearing this awesome result that is just organic but super punchy, sounds unique, sounds big, and really, really cool.
Nice, thanks. And also to maintain it throughout the production, there was also, especially with the snare, a challenge. But we grew on that.
Did you end up enforcing it with samples at all? Is it just the natural drums I'm hearing on the record?
No. Natural drums.
Yeah, just the drums. Yeah.
Yeah. Not even from the same kit, like your own samples that you did you record samples just in case?
Yeah, we did.
Do you always, because I always do that, but I don't always use them.
I have a nice library now where I can
Me too.
produce my own Van Holzen songs.
Oh man, that's great.
Next album is a remotely made by Philip Koch.
Yes,
but you didn't use them on the mix.
No samples.
Did you mix it actually? By the way,
no. I did some pre-mixing like I always do, and then we gave it to Moritz Enders. And he did a great job. Yeah,
we had him on the show last year at the after studio or on the studio scene, I think.
Nice.
Yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, he mixed it. Great. That's right in his wheelhouse as well. The style is right. It's like his thing too, I think. It's great. Did you mix the previous records as well?
No, the previous one was mixed by Joe Joaquin. The 2 records before were mixed by Simon Jäger, who also co-produced the first 2 records.
Yeah, cool. All good people.
Yeah, all good people, all great.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah. And so Moritz also didn't use any samples in the mix. It's just the drums.
Just the drums.
Just the drums. Yeah. Because that was the idea, to keep it natural and band sounding rough. Yeah. And he liked the challenge too, I guess.
Yeah,
he loved it.
Yeah.
I think after the third song, it clicked for him, and he was like, let's go, nice. And he was very into it. The first, you asked about difficult songs to get right. And I had this,
asked about it, yeah.
Manel, right. And I have Gedanken Neu. I had Gedanken Neu in mind, the first single of the album. And that one was very difficult to get right in the mix because it's everything all at once. It's everything has to be super loud, and the leveling and the energy was crazy to get right. And Moritz, he very much helped us out and nailed it after some time. But we were very specific with that one, and also very in love with details. So we had to also chill ourselves, and then Moritz made it happen. Yeah, this one wasn't as easy as the other ones.
Oh, you're cool. That's great to hear. Yeah, there are also some details in there. Manel, you mentioned it in your notes. You want to talk about that real quick? You've heard some interesting little details that in the guitar specifically that have been left in on the record.
Yes, but we already talked about that, right? No?
Oh, you talked about that the guitars go away and become mono and stuff.
Oh yeah, and then there's also the little noises, and when you go from one chord to another and you have no choice than having some noise in between. I mean,
you could clean it up, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
So you went for more like a live feeling, like you really feel that someone is playing the guitar.
Yeah. We kept it rough because same with Florian. He's a great guitar player, and I think at some point there's no need to clean things up, because it's so nice to hear someone just play the guitar and really go in there. And so there wasn't a lot of editing actually. It was just two recordings of the guitar left and right, and sometimes
And
more.
did that change from the previous record? Because you said it was more like perfect. So
Yes.
maybe in the previous one you went for more like a perfect kind of sound with more editing, but now you decided to go a different route.
Absolutely. On the last record, I recorded, I think, like 8 of the songs guitar by myself in studio. So we did the setup with Phil, and it was already clear what I want to play. And then I just recorded it in our home studio at that time. And I kept just tracking takes over and over again to get it right, and then comp the takes and do this best of. For me, it works on that record, but afterwards I was like, where's the life, where's the swag and the performance? And this time I just wanted to be like also wild in some parts, and also with different effects. We have this one Space Bender effects by what's the company? It's like from New York. Death by Audio. Death by Audio, Space Bender, Crazy Pedal. And you just can't replace or do 2 takes of the same kind. It's just wild. It's uncontrollable. And I really fell in love with uncontrollable stuff and guitars, because I'm very controlled, and I love planning. And I think this one was very good for my heart and soul to just play and then say, okay, it's nice. It has character. Keep it like that, and embrace the little nooks and crannies and the noise.
Great. Love it. What was where did the decision come from that you want to co-produce this one compared to the last ones where Phil produced? Did you just grow as a producer in the meantime? Did you want to have more impact on like the sonic sort of decisions? Like, why? Usually it's the other way around. Usually, like a lot of people start DIYing their first couple of records or demos or whatever, and then they eventually go out and finally hire a producer and get help from the outside. You started with a producer basically, and then co-produced this record. Like, why?
Yeah, good. I started with a producer because when I was like 15 or 16, stuff would be not as good.
Yeah, but that's unfortunately what a lot of people do. So yeah.
No, with the first 2 or 3 records, I just learned a lot from Phil and Simon, especially from Phil. He's by my side for so long now, and after the 3rd record, I gained more like self-esteem in the studio, and also produced some other records and other bands and artists. And then I was just like, this is my baby, Van Holzen. That's my most important project, and where I can really express myself through songwriting. But as I grew as a producer, I also wanted to get my mark sonically on our record, and I think without the help of Phil, this record wouldn't sound as it sounds. But I really liked the thought of playing a bigger part in it and getting into the decision making of how does it sound, what's the technical side of stuff, how we gonna engineer the drums, and it was super natural for me because I had 7 or 8 years and 3 albums to learn from the best, and then I took on a little bit more responsibility on this one. So
yeah, interesting.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you for being such a great drum engineer and producer.
Thank you.
Yeah, drum engineer. That's interesting. Like, how I was about to ask, like, how are the roles distributed between the two? Does one of you do more of the technical stuff, and the other one has more of like the creative overview, or is it even? Is there a certain, certain roles?
as you mentioned it before, like Flo really grew as a producer and engineer the last years, and he became because of his talent and skills, but also the ability to record at their studio in Ulm back then. He really made a deep dive into drum engineering. And so, yeah, he learned a lot and has a great taste in it. And yeah, so I think at this record, it was like we just like did it together, kind of like the engineering. Okay, let's take this mic for the kick and put it there and run it through that preamp. And yeah, and that's so much fun because that's way more fun than doing it alone and just like having the band sitting in the kitchen and setting it up by myself. And yeah, so just nerding around a bit and having all these great mics and tool house and preamps and SSL console and stuff. And yeah, it was really, really fun working with Flo.
And also I have to say, when it comes to style and making rock sound modern and fresh again, and not the kind of modern where there's like 50 tracks of synths going on, but having unusual sounds here and there. Phil is very good at producing and bringing up stuff like that, and I think that's his sauce. And so there was also a big part of the post-production, and when we recorded vocals and we had the basic tracks going to do our little rounds of production, additional production stuff. And yeah, that's where I get also, so this part in drum engineering is where I get the most fun of on the production side of things. And it's also much more fun to share the joy between two people and high five when you get the sound right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There are a couple of subtle but really cool synth things going on the record. I didn't perceive it. That was also one thing I was listening for, and I didn't perceive it as one of those records, like you said, where there's like just tons and tons of layers of synth everywhere. But every once in a while, I think there's a couple of subtle things, but every once in a while they are pretty upfront and obvious, but then also it's just a short moment and not the entire thing usually. And they kind of blend well with the guitars too. Sometimes it's even hard to tell if it's like a distorted synth or like a fuzzy guitar or both. And like they go together really well in many cases. Do you do those in, like, which DAWs are you using? Are you doing the post-production MIDI stuff in Ableton, or are you doing everything in whatever you used to produce and track? I'm assuming Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, one of those.
We're both Logic users, and like with the overdubs you can hear or synth stuff, I think we don't actually use VSTs. Did we use VSTs?
Or hardware?
Only hardware, yeah. And
okay.
The stuff you hear is, I think, mostly a mellotron running through guitar pedals and super distorted stuff.
Makes sense.
And in some tracks a Juno 60. Yeah. But that's it, I guess.
Yeah. And also a lot of guitars through the Space Bender. It just sounds like a crazy synth. So, for example, on a noise program,
exactly,
there's not one synth. It's just crazy guitar sounds.
That's why I said it's sometimes hard to tell if I'm hearing a synth or if it's a guitar. Like they just go well together, and they both have this kind of static. Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So it's all Logic, and then synth is hardware for the most part.
Yeah.
And no programming. It's just we like to.
Yeah, it's just playing and
playing.
Cool. So also not the typical, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but like just a lot of bands would have this additional round of, going into Ableton and adding a bunch of like MIDI stuff to whatever they produced at the studio. There's none of that happening.
No. We like there is one plugin. It's called the Tornado.
Oh yeah, the Tornado.
And the Tornado, that's the signature sound of the album. And and Phil, he got it, I think, during our production, right? Or after Toolhouse, before we tracked vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And also the tornado stuff, we just latch and we just he just turns on the knobs and performs these crazy effects.
Mhm.
And there's no such thing as drawing in automation. It's just super performative, and just start, and if the take doesn't feel right, do it again, and turning on these little tornado knobs, and he just like morphs and takes it and holds the audio and does crazy freeze stuff and modulation stuff. Can't even describe it, but it's fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. Even when you talk about it, yeah.
That's the sound.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the song. One final thing we just have to talk about, I think, are the drum room that I'm hearing, because that is to me the thing that stands out immediately when you listen to the record. Is just the roomy drums. It's the big, wide, kind of low end of the drums, because that's the other thing. Roomy drums happen on a lot of records, but oftentimes people clean up the low end pretty much on rooms. And in this case, you hear with every kick drum sound, you hear the low end bloom, and it's not muddy and all that, but it's just big and roomy. And I know that I think the Toolhouse Studio 1 or A or whatever it's called, the big one, is not that big, right? It's like it is a nice, decent tracking room, but it's not like this giant hall or something. And so I wonder what your thoughts were on like why did you choose to rely on the room mics so heavily, and what did you do to make them sound like they sound? You and or Moritz, whatever you know about it. Because I'm a big fan of room mics, and those in this record just sound phenomenal. And it sounds like there's a lot of them going on, but it's not boomy and it's also not harsh. And both of those things are hard to do with room mics, because you either get a lot of harsh cymbal mess, or you get a really boomy low end. In your case, you managed to keep them really loud, make them the main mics almost, but everything's still controlled in this overall dark aesthetic of the record, of course.
Yeah. So with the harshness, we used a lot of ribbon mics, right? I think only ribbon mics for the rooms, because we love them.
But did you use Coles or Royers or?
Yeah, we had the Coles in the far room and R88 on the mid far room, I guess.
It's my favorite front of kit mic.
Yeah.
The R88 is just the best.
It's so
ever.
good, yeah.
It's incredible.
I think we had 3 R88s going on the
really?
setup. Yeah.
Holy shit.
and 2 pairs of Coles for the overheads and for the far room. And I think we have an AEA for mono room.
No, we had it on the side snare.
Side snare, yeah, kind of. It's also kind of roomy, and then we had a far room right behind the door. We that's a thing about Toolhouse. The room is very roomy by itself. Like you can try to kill the roominess, but it has a super long roomy low end, and I think you really have to like it. And I think it's the combination of those things, the ribbon mics in combination with the long low endy room sound of Toolhouse, and playing with the open door. Like we had a mic behind the open door, and so there's also a way more far room happening within the U87, I guess, or U67.
Yeah. So the hallway in Toolhouse is very bright and long.
Yeah.
And the live room, I like it a lot when you're in there and you get into the kick, and it sounds very nice, and as you said, bloomy. But I think for Moritz it was a challenge, and it's a lot. It can be a lot, especially if you have a faster rock song with a lot of kick and bass and all these crazy space bender guitars. So he
just one standing bass wave.
Yes, he had to control the low end in the room, and I think that was probably for him the hardest part in the mix process. But I like it. I think it's not for every record, the Tool House Live Room, but for this one it worked. And ribbon mics forever. That's
totally.
for
that
me,
kind of style.
For that kind of style, for loud cymbals, it's just the best. And then you just clean it up in the low end, or this boxiness around 300 hertz, and I think it works quite well with our sound.
Totally. And they also take top end boosts really well. Like if you want to make it brighter, you can, but it doesn't get harsh if you do. And it's like, yeah.
Totally.
But
we also use these walls, to get the sound a little bit more focused. These sound walls,
gobos around the kit or something.
Yeah. Because it gets pretty roomy, especially in the low end at Tool House.
And was the decision to keep it dark like that? Did you just communicate that immediately to Boris? Did you know you wanted that? Like control the low end, but keep as much of it as possible, and like don't make it too bright at the top? Because you could have easily, like I played around, like just because I'm a nerd like that, I play around with it a little bit, and like you could easily have, boosted, I don't know, 3 or 4 dBs at the top, and it would still sound great, would still be a great record, right? It is pretty dark intentionally. So did you say, we love that kind of sound, this is what we captured, we love the low end, control it, yes, but like keep it and don't make it too bright? Or did he come up with that when he sent the mixes back to you?
I think like I tend to make the premixes pretty dark, like at the beginning, and like I have a weird thing going on with high mids and highs. And I like dark records, and I like dark mixing. Like it shouldn't be like too muffled, but
no,
I'm not the biggest fan of like too scooped high mids or highs. And my premixes are way more darker than Moritz actual mixes. So he boosted the high mids and the highs already pretty much. And I think that's the kind of compromise, but the good one, I guess. And I really like the color of it. That's a
Also,
taste thing, I guess.
Also, I think we gave him very little notes for the first mixes, right? Just your premix.
Just do your thing, kind of.
Yeah, and then he did this thing, and I think after the third song, as I mentioned before, it clicked a lot when he mixed Nichts geworden with the mono guitar solo, and that first mix was like, okay, that's amazing. Keep going. That's the direction. Let's go, because we had to mix 2 songs before we could give him the rest of the record. So I think it's always difficult to anticipate where the record's gonna be and how it should sound as a whole, but he did a great job at it.
Yeah, it's important also to figure out, if it's a great fit and a great vibe, and then totally makes sense. And it's interesting you mentioned the premixes and that led to what it is now, and you're totally right. Like if you start that dark and then he does his thing, you might, that any mixer would know that if I get a premix, like a demo mix like that is probably what they want. So I would be careful not making it too bright. If you like that totally makes sense. And I love it. I'm not saying, by the way, that this is it's bad or anything. Like it's a very bold move, because these days a lot of mixes are bright, and usually the first listen when you hit play and something is bright and loud, that's usually impressive right away. And so that's why a lot of people are just afraid to make a dark record. But I'm all for it. I love it. And for this one, it's the perfect energy and balance, as long as you still have clear transients and like attacks and just the clarity in the top end that you need for it to not be muffled. It's awesome, but it's a bold move. And I think I'm not sure if I were to mix this, if I would have had, the courage to just keep it dark like that. I would probably have tried to make it a little brighter, just because that's what you do most of the time. And so I actually think it's a really cool move and a good thing you kept it like that. And one of the first things that I noticed. out of all the things that I noticed. I was so that when Benjamin reached out to me about this interview, I was so excited just because I wanted to hear the record, and then when I heard it, I got even more excited about this interview because that's precisely the aesthetic that I just love, and there's so many things I could talk about. So this is very helpful and interesting for me to hear today. So, and I hope for our audience as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Was very much fun making it.
Awesome. Yeah. So maybe the final thing, back to the self-recording topic before we wrap it up, what do you think, Flo, are the biggest challenges when it comes to producing for your own band? What is it, where do you need the external producer for the most? Is it different for you to do that compared to producing for someone else?
Yes, completely different. Yeah. I think I would go crazy if I had to produce a Van Holzen album by myself. I think it would just be insane for me. Because also with this album, I really had to challenge myself to switch between these modes, being a co-producer or co-engineer, and then but also like a musician and the artist. And you have to, for me at least, that's the most important part, to be flexible and to be firsthand be an artist and get your songs right and try to compose stuff you want to record then. And I think for self-producing bands, it just helps being around other people who make music or produce records, like play to friends, play to different producers. Maybe not as in an early stage, but if you're like, okay, that's cool, I'm gonna show it to like a good friend of mine, get some tips, and don't live with it for too long by yourself. Just share it with a group of people, and because for me it's super helpful to listen to my songs with other people in the room. Because I'm then very honest to myself on how I like these songs and how I like the production moves or the mixes. It just helps me getting a different perspective. And as far as the technical stuff goes, for me it was just super important to do a lot to, like Phil said, get into the drum engineering, go hard on it and dive deep and try every mic you have on every snare you have, and then focus on the instruments themselves, and try to make it sound as good as possible in the room, and then try to translate it onto your DAW or tape or whatever. So that's a combination of things, but I think I'm not built for self-producing my band. I need my people around me. I need different influences, and also, it just has to be a collaboration of people. I think making music by yourself, at least for me, gets a little boring at some point. So I very much enjoy doing it with different people.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Or the same ones for 10 years,
Or the same ones for 10 years.
But they change, That's important to evolve. And I think the next record is going to be different again. Keep it exciting. Keep it spicy.
Yeah. That's important too to notice, or to mention that you mentioned there, because same people, but also not. Phil is not the same Phil he was 3 years ago, probably, or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You are not the same engineer, and and the outside perspective, anyways, is just important, even if it's the same people.
Yeah. And I think that's also Phil's big strength, to keep evolving, keep the good things and the experience, take it with you, and but don't settle for less and keep going, and don't make the same album twice. So I think that's why we did 4 albums together by now, and it just doesn't get boring. It's just big fun.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Awesome.
On to the next one.
Yeah. Awesome. Where should we send people if they want to check it out? Obviously, there is Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your music. The band name is Van Holzen. I guess there is, a website or some. What is your favorite place where we should send people to?
To our concerts, probably.
That's a good answer. And where do I see these? Where do I see the dates?
We're gonna go on in November on tour, and you just look it up at vanholzen.com. That's probably the best place. You can find everything there.
Yeah, go catch them live. That's the best idea. Yeah, totally right. And then we're gonna put all the socials and websites and all that in the show notes below if you want to check it out, of course. And then go catch the band live and check out the record. I can highly recommend it. I've been listening to it on repeat, and it's great, production-wise, but also the songs. Really good stuff. So thank you again for taking the time to do this with us today.
Thanks a lot.
I really appreciate it. And Manel, also thank you for being here. Sorry for taking over this episode once again. I got too excited, I guess. Anyways,
I got my moment.
Yeah.
The mono guitar solo.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Flo. And thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.